I now recognize Mr. Hultgren for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple questions dealing more with manufacturing and jobs. The President stated in his State of the Union address, and I know you've reaffirmed in your testimony. I apologize. We had a couple other meetings going on at the same time, but I know you testified that one of the goals of this budget is to encourage high-tech manufacturing in the United States. I certainly agree with this admirable goal and want to be fighting for that as well, but wonder if any amount of Federal spending on science and technology will lead to more high-tech manufacturing without significant regulatory and tax reform. So I wonder, can you provide us with your thoughts on this, as well as how to create the optimal environment to support high-tech manufacturing and job creation here in the U.S.? Since the U.S. has one of the highest corporate tax rates, do you believe we can attract business to the U.S. and keep them here without reducing regulation and reforming the tax code?
Great. Thank you very much. I certainly agree wholeheartedly that the set of conditions that a manufacturer will use to make a decision to site in the United States or to grow are more than just the R&D piece itself. And it's going to be access to the workforce. It's going to look at the tax and cost structure. It's going to be a whole host of things. And I think the NIST manufacturing effort should be viewed really in the fabric of a much larger effort that looks at how do we set the right macroeconomic conditions to support investments in advanced manufacturing and so forth. That includes trade, workforce, tax structure, and so forth. But I think that in the context of R&D intensive industries, ones that are really dependent on the flow of new ideas, there is an important touch point. And I think that setting the right structure is really about making sure that we both facilitate the scale-up problem, taking an idea from a lab and how does it look in full scale-up, which is often a very deep measurement problem. And the other one is getting the market right. And you are exactly right. Many of these new emerging technologies are touching potential regulatory issues. So if you look at biotech, where we are looking at the promise of an incredibly fast production of new biomaterials and new bioproducts, everyone concludes in this sector that I have talked to that we have to do something to make sure the regulatory process that protects the safety and efficacy of these materials keeps pace with that. And so what we are trying to do at NIST is to make sure that, to the extent that this can be done through measurement, and the way to think of that is through quality control and quality assurance processes within the industry itself, that we might be able to set from technology side a better barrier so that we have smart and nimble regulation or requirements. One of the goals in standard setting is certainly, if industry has broadly adopted a set of practices that are self-protective, that goes a long way to addressing the type of breakdowns or market breakdowns where you would expect to look at regulation. So that's true in our nanotechnology, where we're looking at environment and safety and health issues. How do we measure within nanoparticles, and also looking at biotech.
You touched on this a little bit, but I guess just to delve in a little bit deeper, you've talked about a number of distinct manufacturing initiatives and programs that NIST supports. I wonder if you could give your view more broadly of the direction. I'm concerned about U.S. manufacturing and making sure that that is growing, that's a vital part of our economy, always has been, and I believe needs to be going forward. I wonder if you could kind of give your thoughts of how you see that going in the near future and then longer term from the work that you've been doing at NIST, but also just recognizing, do you feel like there is enough leadership coming from Washington, from agencies, from the administration on manufacturing, and how could the administration coordinate manufacturing activities amongst the different Federal agencies more effectively?
I have to tell you that in my 18 years in the Federal Government, I've never been more optimistic about manufacturing than I am today. I think a tone has changed. I think for a while there was a feeling that it was just inevitable, that we didn't have to worry about manufacturing. We could simply invent it here and it would go somewhere else, and that was okay. I think that's changed. I think there's been a recognition, not just within the Federal Government, but every discussion I've had in Congress has sort of reaffirmed this. And most importantly, the business community has really stepped up and begun to make the case very strongly that there's a deep interplay between our capacity as a country to innovate and our capacity as a country to produce and benefit from those innovations. And in fact, we probably should have known this because our competitors were doing this to us. They would start with the low-end manufacturing, which had no R&D, and work their way up the value chain until they were eventually building out R&D infrastructure. And so that interplay was obvious to them, and I think we may have just taken it for granted since it had been such a core part of our strength for so many years. But I think that's really changed. I think the dynamic, as I said, is as robust as I've ever seen it. Now I think what we have to do is use that window of opportunity wisely and begin to craft some programs that work effectively, because as I said, the Federal Government doesn't manufacture anything. But what we want to do is make sure we are providing an environment that is conducive to that set of industries.
Just real quickly on that, is there some coordinated effort going on again amongst, I'm glad to hear of your optimism from your perspective, but is there some coordination as far as making sure that the effort really is being productive among different agencies from what you've seen?
Yes, the answer is, again, as much as I've ever seen. So when Secretary Bryson was confirmed as Commerce Secretary, he was made a co-chair of a new office called the Office of Manufacturing Policy. This was a cabinet-level group. In fact, I was at the first meeting. I had the privilege of sitting on the side wall while they met. And in fact, we've had vigorous and active participation by most of the cabinet, actually. It's been remarkable. The President himself is personally engaged in manufacturing. And at the working level in the advanced manufacturing space, NIST was named as the coordination agency. So we were given what was called a National Program Office to specifically provide the support for a robust all-of-government effort. And I would say routinely every day, one door down from my office, Mike Molnar, who heads that office, is coordinating with Defense and Energy and NSF. So it's extremely active at this time.
My time has expired. I yield back. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.